welcome to Ready to Heal. I'm your host, Betsy Sawyer Galen, and I'm going to introduce you to many different modes of alternative healing. Some you've heard of, some you've never heard of. And today we're going to talk about one that's you may never have heard of. It's called brain spotting. And I'm welcoming back my guest, David Dodge. Thank you for being here again. I really enjoyed our conversation last time. I wanted to just kind of pick up where we were. First, I just want you to just lightly touch on the history of brain spotting.
Okay. History of brain spotting started in, was discovered in 2003 by Dr. David Grand. And he is and was a EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing expert who was, and that's based on movement back and forth for the eye position, back and forth. He was doing some experimentation with real mini movements. And
mini movement meaning?
Mini movement, not going completely back and forth, just within a certain area. He was working with a client who was 15 or 16, female, who wanted to be in the Olympics for ice skating. She couldn't do the triple loop. In this session that David Grand was having with her, he noticed that her eye, she had a tick in her eye every time he went by this particular area. He, out of curiosity, just stayed on that area, and he found that that client had processed deeper and more thoroughly than ever before with the EMDR processing, in the sense of, and I'll show you later some, kind of path in the brain. Our deepest trauma gets stuck in the deepest part of our brain. And so it's very hard for talk therapy to get to that spot, get to those sources, because of the area in the brain that it is and all the protective devices that area has in relation to... Anyway, so Dr. Grand stayed on that spot, the deepest, the most effective, efficient cleansing of negativity. The next day, the girl went out and she did the triple loop. Because she didn't have any negative thing in her head saying that she couldn't do the triple loop. So it removed. So it's kind of proof in the initial discovery of it that we're blocked by so many negative thoughts and feelings that really aren't ours. They've been given to us over time. And it's about just cleaning those out, and you can get to your true self or higher self or all the good stuff.
Well, let me ask you a question. Yeah. This is like a particular spot in your brain where you've stored a trauma, and you're isolating it by looking in a particular direction? Is that how it works?
Part of it. So what happens is that when you find a brain spot, and a therapist can be looking at the client and can find movement in the eye and in the face to find out where that particular... It's going to be a representation of where it's being held in the brain or the neurological system, but it's through the eye position. So the therapist can see by looking at the client, or the client can actually feel that, and where's it most intense in the room, and just look around with the eyes and we'll find the spot where it's the most intense. That's the representation of the internal brain spot where it's being held in the neurological system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I was just wondering if it, because somebody was asking me about it, and I was trying to explain, and I thought it was corresponding to like a particular spot in your brain where you're actually holding this energy. And when you look, you're actually stimulating that particular spot.
Okay, so you should have explained it because you did it a lot better than I did.
Is that correct? Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
That's great.
And as you stimulate that spot, actually, believe it or not, all you have to do is look at that spot, and you're stimulating it. But as you're stimulating it, you're dissolving it, or you're releasing it. It's that negativity that got stuck is going away. And so there's a subjective scale of 0 to 10. How intense is it? And if it's intense 6, 7, you wait, you stare at it until it goes down to 0, and then that's going to be
But
gone.
now you're not just staring at a spot. You're also focusing on a trauma, correct? You're focusing on something that's bothering you.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be a particular trauma. Actually, that's one of the limitations of EMDR is that you have to focus on a specific trauma, have a picture of it in your head. With brain spotting, you can just have an emotion, and you don't even have to know what the emotion is, per se. So that's sounds pretty bizarre, but it's true. If you wake up in the morning and you just have this cloud cover over you, kind of this daze that you're in that a lot of us do before the caffeine, you can find a brain spot for that, and you can clear that without knowing.
That's only in one spot? That's interesting.
It's going to be in different spots, different mornings, because you're going to be having different dreams about different things, about different negativity or whatever, fears. A lot of anxiety and fears come up in our dreams, kind of thing. So some of that'll continue in the morning. So, but you can clear that. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you also. You said people have asked you before. How does this compare to hypnosis? Is it hypnosis?
It's not hypnosis. The only commonality is that it gets to your unconscious mind. Okay, so it goes into the deeper regions of the mind. Hypnosis will do that. Part of hypnosis is self-hypnosis, which means that you will only get as hypnotized as you want to be or your unconscious wants you to be. Okay, brain spotting kind of cuts through all that, and once you find that spot, you're going to go to that deep part of the brain, release that. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot more easy, effective, quicker than hypnosis. Hypnosis, you've really got to have somebody that really knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Some people are afraid of hypnosis, too.
Right.
It's just
because they have to let go.
Right. And that you're giving somebody control.
Yeah, right.
You just don't.
And
this isn't the same thing.
This is not the same thing at all. You're totally in control, and and it's incredibly, it's not, it might be scary to start the process kind of thing because we're afraid of our fears to begin with.
Right.
Last week we did a little demonstration on you, and you were talking about a 4 or 5 of anxiety, and that's not a lot of anxiety, but it's something we don't want to look at, so we stuff it and we try to move on and do our thing. But we keep doing that all our lifetime, so we stuff a lot of different things by not looking at them.
Right.
So hypnosis can go in there, resolve some of it, but again, you've got to have a hypnotist that really knows what they're doing in relation to this, where brain spotting is a lot more simple. A lot more effective, actually, because it goes kind of right to the problem. So if you have perfectionism or procrastination, I'm not saying you're going to let go of that in one session, but the average people with those problems, it's going to be about 4, 5, 6 sessions, and they can let go of that condition. Because perfection and procrastination, people-pleasing, also all of those are kind of what I call lifestyles and from anxiety lifestyles.
Yeah.
So if you address the anxiety issues, where the anxiety came from, which is usually going to be from our childhood, how we were brought up, kind of thing, and if we allow ourselves to release that, then we're not going to have those pressures on us anymore.
Right.
Kind of thing.
And now we're kind of focusing on emotional issues now.
Right.
But I was wondering, are there health issues that this works for?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
The most easy thing to explain is pain. Okay. Brain research recently has discovered that the area where emotional pain is felt and physical pain is felt very close together. So when we're having physical pain, if we break our arm, okay, there will be physical pain. Over time, the more we beat ourselves up for doing something stupid to break our arm, or feeling bad because we can't get to work, or beating ourselves up mentally, there's going to be additional emotional stuff combined with that physical pain that's exacerbating the physical pain. So the brain spotting can address the emotional excess of beating ourselves up, so we don't have to beat ourselves up, and it usually reduces the pain in half.
Oh.
Okay, all right. That's when you have a physical problem. When you go to, there's many people who come to me who have pain in their backs or different parts of their body, but they go through the whole medical process, and the medical model says we can't find anything, and so now medical model is actually even saying, well, it's probably something emotional, so go talk to somebody about it. And this brain spotting, and depending on how much emotional pain is stored in relation to that particular stuff, in relation to that particular pain in the body, it will go down very rapidly. First session, you're going to notice that you can release it, okay? And then, depending, again, on how much is in there, how much you've stored up over time, but that can be released completely. So brain spotting can either release your pain completely, if it's not exacerbated by some physical pain, or definitely reduce your physical pain.
And how many sessions are typical?
Again, it's going to depend on the individual situation, how much emotional pain there. It's going to depend on different issues, how much support they're getting outside of the house. If they're an isolated housewife who's getting emotionally abused by a husband on a regular basis kind of thing, it's going to be more difficult for her to get out of that because she has to go right back into the...
And she keeps restoring the...
Well, she keeps
re-traumatized,
getting re-traumatized, and she's been traumatized in her childhood where she was physically, not physically, but, well, physically once in a while, but emotionally mostly abused then. So it's coming from the childhood, it's stored from the childhood, plus it's just being exacerbated over and over again by having to go back in that same environment. And her not feeling strong enough or safe enough to be able to leave that environment because she feels like she's going to be homeless or whatever kind of thing, so she's in a tough... But and the person who I'm talking about actually came in with a lot of physical pain, knee pain, a lot of back pain, and it was, I'm going to say, and also it depends on how much that person is going to be willing to focus on that pain to be able to let it go. And it's not that you have to, it can be uncomfortable to release.
Is there something that you do to help somebody bring that to the forefront so you can treat it?
Yes, there's something we call resource brain spotting, which is about when they're at the height of the emotional thing that they're in, we ask them where are they most relaxed on their body. And if they say their lower part of their body, the lower legs, then I ask them what's the name of the feeling, and they'll say relaxed, comfortable, calm, whatever it is. And so then I have them find the most calm, relaxed, comfortable spot in the room. And that proves to be, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is that part of us that calms us down. So even in the midst of that sympathetic nervous system activation initially and the fight or flight thing initially, the parasympathetic nervous system activating that will cut that in half.
Oh.
Okay, so
I know you brought a chart here. Do you want to focus in on this?
Okay,
you can tell us how this affects
so our trauma actually gets stored in the middle part of the brain, which is actually very close, if not part of the reptilian brain, which is the initial in evolution, in the first stage of the brain's evolution. Part of why talk therapy doesn't have a chance of resolving this is because speech is on the peripheral sides of the brain on either side, and the front is the prefrontal cortex where we analyze and we figure out problems. But it's very far away from the middle of the brain that holds all this information. Okay, so the amygdala is in the middle part of the brain, and that is in control of our emotions and our fear, and this is where the fight or flight thing from that's been with us ever since we've been an organism, because it's helped us to survive throughout Okay.
Right.
Now it's just that 4 or 5 of anxiety that, that starts to get initiated. So we don't want to go there. So we don't talk about it because it's too threatening.
Well, it also kind of gets in the way of your day. I know just myself, if there's something bothering me and I need to deal with it, a lot of times you go someplace else because you're trying to get through your day. You're trying to get your things done.
But that's yes, you're trying to get your things done and you don't want to deal with that other stuff. You don't want to be, okay. I'm just going to say as a sidebar there that if you dealt with it, it wouldn't keep coming up every day down the road kind of thing. But I understand totally people don't want it. There's that...
it's an instinct.
It's a total instinct. It's the pain-pleasure principle. We certainly want pleasure before we want to go into pain. The funny thing about it, though, is if you actually go into the pain and deal with it, looked at it, it would go away. The more you resist it, the more it persists. The more you look at it, the more it disappears. So, and that's very true. And the brain spotting is kind of the metaphoric epitome of that saying, because the more you look at it, the more it goes away. If you don't look at it, it's not going to go away. So anyway, so talk therapy is on the kind of in the prefrontal cortex and the other side of the brain. Language is in this black area here. But it's kind of interesting because the amygdala is where the fight or flight is and the survival instinct. And the hippocampus, I believe, is where short-term memory is kind of translated into long-term memory. So it's kind of interesting that that's in the deeper part of the brain also, because then that long-term memory trauma gets stored there.
Right.
Okay? So it's harder to get. If you're going to talk about it, the amygdala and the fight or flight thing is going to go off, so you don't even want to go there. So talk therapy, you're just not feeling safe enough to go there. Okay? And the hypothalamus is actually part of the brain that where the autonomic nervous system is, which is made up of the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight, and the parasympathetic is the part that calms us down. If you look at pictures in anyway, when you do research on this, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, it gets lit up. It's all along the spinal cord, and it's like turning on a switch or turning off a switch. That fight or flight thing, because it connects with every organ in the body in order to alert it that something's going to get you to move and to move fast, or to fight whatever's there. And then the parasympathetic nervous system is just kind of a thing around the top of the nervous system that it's like a choker that kind of calms everything down. So it's kind of
interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting actually.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Does insurance cover this as a medical treatment or as an adjunct to talk therapy?
I'm going to say yes, because you don't have to. The therapist doesn't have to say that you're using brain spotting. In order, the insurance companies are going to actually love the brain spotters because they're going to get through their issues a lot quicker. And so eventually, insurance, you're going to need to have some kind of methods like that in order to do it. Now it's cognitive behavioral therapy is the thing to do, even though I'm going to say this, I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I've been a therapist for a long time. And I'm not an expert at cognitive behavioral therapy, but I do respect it highly, and I do go by certain tenets that come out of cognitive behavioral therapy. But I don't know it as well as I should, and I'm going to say 95% of the people, of the therapists out there, don't know it as well as they should. But all you have to do on the insurance form to be a therapist to get on an insurance panel is check off, do you know cognitive behavioral therapy? Yes, I do. Of course I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't be on your panel, would I? So it's kind of those people that really know how to do cognitive behavioral therapy, it's good. But it's still not anywhere close to brain spotting or any of the Accelerating Healing Solutions, just because of what we discussed, is that it's cognitive behavioral therapy is not, it's talk therapy. I don't care how good you are at the talk therapy, it's talking to the rational part of our brain, which is great. But if you have so much emotion, if you have that 4 or 5 anxiety, then you got a 4 or 5 of anger, then you got over there, you're going to eventually get flooded and you're not going to come up with your answers right away. Okay?
Right.
So, and that's exactly what happens. And now, with the internet and all that other kind of stress, we're just flooded with all this stress. I hate to say it, but we're seeing people being beheaded and stuff in other countries.
Right.
It's like, wow,
that's horrible.
Oh my God, it's horrible.
It's so
but that
bad for our whole culture
that's
to
post-traumatic
see
stress for a lot of us who
Right.
can't get that image out of our head, kind of thing. So yeah, so that's just continuing to bombard us. So if we have all that emotional overwhelm, we're not going to get to that rational part. We're not going to get to the cognitive part that makes...
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that said, I know you do this. How do people get brain spotting?
Okay. Part of what I was saying prior. Okay, so BrainSpotting Pro.com is Dr. David Grand's website. He has a number of people listed there, not nearly as many. There's been thousands of brain spotters trained all over the world. Not everybody does it in order to go out and practice it and all that kind of stuff, but there's only probably 20 listed on his website for whatever reason that is. Brain spotting used to be connected with Lisa Schwartz, was one of the primo trainers. And she had a whole list of brain spotters on her website. Unfortunately, she's kind of broken away from the brain spotting and now is doing her own thing with the comprehensive resource model, which is, she gave a lot to the brain spotting resource model also. But anyway, since she's done that, has taken down those names for whatever reason, she's kind of disconnected from the brain spotting. So that's very unfortunate. So I don't have any other. The only way that I would suggest, if you're interested, to go to BrainSpottingPro.com. Lori is David's secretary, and email Lori and ask for a list of brain spotters in your area. That's the only thing I can say at this point, and that's very important.
Locally, people can connect with your website.
With my website, yes, which is www.acceleratedhealingsolutions.com, and my email is dave@acceleratedhealingsolutions.com. So you certainly could connect with me for sure. Yes.
Okay. Terrific. I wanted to ask you also, is this type of treatment more accepted, say, in Europe or Russia, Asia? Is this?
It's kind of. I'm not an authority on that. I don't really know. Accepted. America's actually getting into a period of having a lot of energy modalities that are coming into the forefront. Okay, so we have Reiki energy, which is now at the top of the food chain of alternative medicine in hospitals, right in Mount Kisco Hospital.
Meaning that the acceptance level of that in
the
our
acceptance level.
society
and
right now.
What happens also is that if I heard somewhere that it takes like 50 years for something like that to become established. Mm-hmm. Okay, Reiki's been here for quite a while, although that's an accelerated. Acupuncture has been here for quite a while. That's making strides.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that's also because the typical medical model is now picking it up. So some of the things that we're talking about now have not been picked up by the medical model.
Right.
But
they will. Actually, my wife just went to this doctor's. She went because her own doctor wasn't available, and the doctor was very impressive. I actually don't know his name. I would give his name because the younger generation of medical model are coming in with more knowledge of other things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
and acceptance,
without a doubt. I mean, it's kind of interesting because my wife gets into some serious energy work stuff, and this guy didn't bat an eye and actually continued the conversation, where most medical model that I've been used to over the years would kind of poo-poo it. But that's part of the deal, is that it needs to. Chiropractors, doctors used to hate chiropractors, and how dare they be called doctors? You know what I mean? But now they're kind of standard. And they're totally accepted, but they've been here for a while. EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques, Nick Ortner is now calling it the tapping solution and tapping, so it's becoming more familiar from that under that name than. But it's coming into. He's written a book on pain. His sister's written a book about weight loss and all that kind of stuff. So Louise Hay. And with that organization, so Louise Hay's actually done a lot to move stuff along.
Things forward.
Yeah. So,
can a person do this themselves, or are there
classes?
classes?
So that's very interesting, and yes, you certainly can do it. No, there's not classes per se, except on SoundsTrue.com. There is it's an online course actually. It has a number of videos that are very interesting, and it's only $39, which is, and I'm not getting any commission from this, but I was surprised when I went looking for this, and I actually purchased it myself just to see what it was going to be like so I could talk about it, because it's the only thing that really instructs you on how to do it yourself. There's one video that he will...
what is it called?
It's if you go to BrainSpot, if you just go for a search, Google search brain spotting, that was the first one that came up. Was the Sounds True online course, and it's very productive for $39. You can't go wrong, kind of thing. And again, he does the one video on the self application. I believe I would do it better. Because he doesn't spend a lot of time finding where the spot is, but he does. So I would suggest that if you're interested, before you go see anybody, that you check it out and see what it's like and all that kind of stuff. So.
All right, terrific. All right. Thank you so much for coming back
so
again.
Welcome.
We have so much more we could say. And we've run out of time, but thank you again, my guest, David Dodge, and visit us again at Ready to Heal. Thanks.